Welcome to the world of Rex. I am Marvel Rex. So excited to be diving into the weekly energies with you this week for February 5th to February 11th of 2024. We've got some exciting announcements. I am officially on YouTube. There's going to be video and audio for all those who want to watch me talk while I do the world of Rex. It is the curtain is being unveiled. The man behind the curtain unveiled. You can check out that. There's a link in the show notes to the YouTube link. There is also my lovely newsletter. If you are not subscribed to the newsletter, that is a wonderful and awesome way to keep up to date with the summaries of each of the episodes. And there's also a lot more fun stuff happening in the newsletter. It's its own beast, and we love the newsletter, and we love my editor. All right. Then finally, you can subscribe to the podcast by just clicking the subscribe button. You can share and rate the podcast. That helps me a ton as a content creator. You can also book readings. The links are in the show notes to book readings. There are also 20-minute recorded readings if you need a smaller, less in-depth reading. That's another way to do that. So there's all sorts of things. You can tell I'm adjusting to being recorded. I'm like, oh my God, I'm being video recorded right now. You'd think I wasn't an actor, but I am. All right. So we're going to dive into the week ahead. Really juicy week. We've got a lot of stuff happening. So let's talk about it. It's a new moon week. So new moon, new beginnings. It's in the Aquarius house. Aquarius does rule digital technology as well as putting things out to the masses. So perfect that I'm doing this video recording using technology. Mercury also enters Aquarius this week and conjoins Pluto. So there is some intense conversations happening. Mercury is our mind as well as our communication devices, all of the communication from our throat, right? From our voice all the way to texting, DMing, emailing, driving from one place to another, all of the information exchanges, as well as any kind of technological exchange. So this is happening. We're going to be talking in the podcast about friendship. That's going to be a big theme. So Aquarius, very interestingly, Aquarius rules friendship as a sign. Every sign has its own kind of thing going on, own archetypal qualities. One of Aquarius's is friendship. Friendship is so important. It's the friend of the zodiac. If you type in like just classic Aquarius traits in pop culture astrology, they'll say, hey, they really value friendship. Aquarius really value friendship. So we're going to talk about friendship. I'm going to give some, pro tips, applicable wisdom in terms of as we move forward, how we can have more healthy relationships, healthy friendships specifically. So it's a big thing to talk about, especially as we cruise into Valentine's Day. There's always like focus. It's so funny to me that Valentine's Day, which is next week, has to do with love and romance because Aquarius, it happens during Aquarius season every year. It's very interesting to me because Aquarius is not about like romantic love. That's the opposite sign, Leo. Leo is about passion and the heartstrings being pulled and Cupid's arrow. And Aquarius is the opposite. It's like, I need to be friends with my partner. I need to feel like we're on equal footing. It can be very disaffected. It can be very like, these are my compatriots. This is my group of people. It's not so much like, oh, I'm feeling all these feelings. It's like, I feel good knowing that everyone's friends and that I have friends and I'm not necessarily having deep, passionate exchanges with my friends. I'm having all the different varieties of connection that we have with our friendships, some of which are very detached. We only see somebody maybe once every 6 months. It still feels good, right? That's the goal for Aquarius, is that there's levels of detachment and they all are valid. They all feel good. So it's funny to me. Very different energy than like what we're pressurized to do during Valentine's Day. We'll talk about it next week. So let's start out with Mercury entering Aquarius. The week starts out with a bang because Mercury enters Aquarius on Monday and conjoins Pluto. Wow. Okay, this is not a joke. Anytime we hear a conjunction to Pluto or when a planet lines up with Pluto, that's what it means, is Mercury lines up with Pluto here at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So wonderful for bringing in all of the sort of themes around Pluto and Aquarius to our minds. Mercury, mind. So I would really recommend going back and listening to the episode I did with Lainey Love Dalby, as well as my 2024 Year Ahead episode, because I talk a lot about, and we talk a lot about Pluto in Aquarius. Mercury, our mind, and it's a collective mind when we're talking about a collective transit, so everybody's mind will start to turn, my friends, on Monday to Pluto. What does this mean? So we may all be kind of waking up this week, February 5th. It's happening on February 5th. Adjust for your time zone. We're looking at PST times here. Everyone might be waking up and being like, oh, this is the new paradigm we're entering. My brain finally caught up with how much change has already been happening since January 20th. I would definitely watch the news. There's going to be a lot around tech. There's going to be a lot around cryptocurrency, CBDCs, all of the hyper tech stuff that Aquarius rules. We're going to be watching the news this week. Really big, okay? Mercury is speaking to Pluto. This is the first conjunction to Pluto in Aquarius that we've had since the French and American and Haitian revolutions, like almost 300 years ago. This is February 5th is kind of a big deal. You should pay attention as an individual. So, right, the news cycle is going to be really techy. It's going to be having to do with all the Aquarius themes, groups, networks, mostly technology on the front of the collective front. For our personal lives, we need to be looking at, first off, if you know where the Aquarius part of your chart falls, then this is very important. And if you don't know, you can book a reading with me and we can talk about where you're getting a major download. You do want to know where Pluto is moving through for the next 20 years. So you want to know where your Aquarius part of your chart is. Recommend. Okay, and so first off, knowing where that is helpful. You know where you're going to get some important news. Mercury is the messenger. So he's like Mercury's sending out information. And when he conjoins Pluto or comes together with Pluto, it's transformative, it's deep, it's paradigm shattering, it's asking you to evolve your mind to prepare for the future paradigm that we're moving into that is very different than late stage capitalism. Let's say you are a Leo rising or a Leo sun. This is happening in your 7th house of relationships, one-on-one intimate relationships. For Leos, this is a really important relationship conversation. It has big and lasting change-oriented impacts. So really deep conversations. It really doesn't matter what your sign is, because collectively we're going to be having intense conversations around, here are the themes, community, friendship. I think there's going to be a lot of friendship stuff on the table this week. So just mark that. Technology, your relationship to technology, your relationship to community building in general, but also how you see yourself in a group, how you understand yourself within a group of people. This is also collaborative projects or projects that involve like a group of people, literally, like more than 3 people. It's not necessarily one-on-one as much as it is like, this is a project we're working on with a team. And this moment when Mercury, our mind and our speech, conjoins Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, we're having some death and rebirths in terms of how we communicate, in terms of our friendships, in terms of how we fit in a group, in terms of technology. So pay attention to all of those themes. It's really big. It's why I'm going to talk about friendship this week. It's so important. I am so happy to share what I found around cultivating healthy relationships. From a practical standpoint, we have Mars and Venus, the lovers, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, in Capricorn right now. I love that they're here together. This is really sexy to me in the sense that both of them desire tangible, practical, and applicable like modes of doing. They're like, okay, so we are figuring out maybe new communities or new friendships. Maybe we have to transform the way we've been working with groups of people or with our friendships or with technology. We need to do this practically. So the Earth energy is lovely right now. I am living for Mars and Venus in Capricorn, as well as Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus. Both Taurus and Capricorn are saying this needs to have long-term stability or long-term, it has to be sustainable, really. So these are some questions or some themes to be thinking about. What's changing in my friend groups? in my communities and networks? And is it sustainable? And moving towards sustainability. What is maybe not sustainable in your friend groups or friendships? What is maybe with Pluto? Pluto can really expose or shine a light on your mind within friendships. Like, oh, that's how I've been approaching that. That doesn't work. It can be hard truths with Pluto. So it's okay if it's a hard truth. I like a conjunction with Mercury because it seems like people are integrating how they have to change. A conjunction is when two planets come together, it's like alchemy. A conjunction is this massively powerful coming together of two different energies, Mercury being our mind, intellect, and speech, and Pluto being the lord of the underworld, being deep transformation and shadow work. So folks, the Mercury's getting sort of like he's gaining the power of Pluto this week. So let's use it. What realizations are you having where you're like, oh, this is actually where I'm going towards freedom, right? That's another Aquarius keynote, freedom. I had a realization about how I've been giving my power over in friendships, for example. This is all very Aquarius. And now that I have this realization, I'm choosing practically, Capricorn, I'm choosing to communicate differently now. This week can be a little bit of it's an initiation. That's a really powerful phrase for this week, is like we're entering an initiation in terms of how we speak, communicate, like learn around friendships, networks, technology, as well as wherever Aquarius falls in your chart, right? So for me, it's my 8th house of intimacy and shared resources. I'm learning about how much energy I'm giving versus how much energy I'm receiving. I may have some the 8th house is also shadow work. I may have some shadow work that comes up that I'm like, whoa, I see that in a whole different way. That's Cancer risings in general. So you're welcome, Cancer risings. It's going to be intense for us in the 8th house. But for all of us, Pluto's energy is coming in right at the top of the week and saying, where do you need to transform in all the Aquarius parts of our lives, right? Everything I just said. So I also wanted to kind of give us a little bit of Neptune and Pisces, which is songs, things that we can dance to this week that are sort of in alignment with the energy or just listen to. And I was like, who has, I got my celebrity Rolodex in my head of astrology charts for celebrities. And I was like, who has Pluto conjunct Mercury in her chart? Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston has, and this is really kind of very dynamic, I think, because she has Pluto conjunct Mercury to the degree in Leo opposite her Saturn in Aquarius. So she's speaking directly to this energy. In Leo, it's the performer, and Whitney Houston, as we all know, or we should know, is an amazing performer, right? So she has this powerful, supercharged voice. Her voice, I actually want to read. Look at what happens when you have Pluto, the most powerful outer planet, conjunct Mercury, your literal voice. Listen to what happens. She was literally nicknamed The Voice. Like that was her nickname, was The Voice, which is just like so powerful, and people are like, ooh, like she's got that. That's what she does. And she's one of the best-selling musical artists of our time. She sold over 220 million records worldwide. So this is the power, and I'm sharing Whitney because I think we should listen to her this week. Ooh, wanna dance with somebody. Wanna have the heat with somebody. You can tell I know the lyrics. Anyway, no, great song. We love this song. Everyone's heard this song pretty much. That's the power of Pluto. We want to use it Whitney can be a talisman this week for us to be like, oh, that's how her voice reached the world. And so in our private or personal lives, our words have a lot of impact this week, particularly with social medias, technologies, internet, email, and our friendships, right? These are the big Aquarius themes, our friendships and our networks. So look, if you're joining a new group this week, on this ingress with this signature, this energetic signature, if you're joining a new group or joining a new partnership this week, group of people, it's going to transform you. It is transforming you. You are being yolked like an egg. Like this is not a joke. This is really transformative with Pluto here. If you do have some very intense conversations this week, you can kind of, thank God you listen to the podcast. You're like, okay, wink to Pluto. I like to personify Pluto. The reason I do is that he's so scary. His signature is fear. And so there can be conversations that come up this week that are stressful to the nervous system, that are scary. What I want to say about it is that if you personify him, you go, okay, you kind of deflate the fear a little bit, because you're like, all right, Pluto, I see you. I'm freaked out. Like, this conversation's uncomfortable. It scares me. If that is happening for you this week, it's healing. Pluto's here to, he's not just a psychic sadist. He really is like the shadow work, the fear, breathe into it, communicate from a brave place, communicate from a transformative space, and you can really have much deeper intimacy in your groups, networks, in your friendships, with the social media. All of that is possible here. Also, Pluto rules wealth. So I just want to say from a financial point of view that, like, there could be some really lucrative situations happening here, especially because Saturn, who's in Pisces, hanging out, being like, you have to try not to control the things that you know you can't control, right? Saturn Pisces is like, breathe in, breathe out, wax on, wax off. Dive into your spirituality. This will be a lot easier. It'll help you navigate the fear. Like, spirituality will literally help you navigate the fear as a buoy. Saturn is sextiling Jupiter in Taurus, which is a money aspect, right? Jupiter in Taurus is money. I was like, where's the money? Where's the self-esteem that leads to the money? So they're in a sextile, which is a sexy, you want to think here, sextile is sexy. There's like a workable energy here that's creating something. So there's great financial aspects this week in terms of having conversations, especially conversations where, again, you're pushing yourself into a new space. You are taking a risk, or kind of getting a little scared about it, getting a little scared about the conversation, but this is what I want. This is what I need. And it's in a group. Everyone has to win here. I want to say something about this week. You need to be going in with a group mindset. Even if you're doing the hard shadow work, even if you're feeling some fear, if you go in trying to force something, or to force your perspective in a way where other people have to be silenced, this is antithetical to Aquarius's energy. Aquarius needs the group to win. So just know that that can be really on the table in terms of, you know, going in team player. We need to be a team player during Aquarius season. We definitely need to be a team player for the next hundreds of years, because we're entering the age of air, and Aquarius is the friend of the zodiac. So how can you embody Pluto in Aquarius, Mercury in Aquarius, by being like, I'm going to speak from a place of friendship, from a place of compatriotism, like we are working together. We are compatriots, like we are friends, or we are a team to get a larger goal done. That's the whole point of Pluto in Aquarius, and Aquarius in general, is we are working together as a collective, and in a way that's equal. That's why I'm saying don't force, you know, just like, you cannot be dominating people right now. The North Node is in Aries, closing in on Chiron, which is the wound of toxic masculinity, and the wound of overexerting yourself or trying to dominate others. Or the flip side of this wound is that you kowtow to others, you defer to others. So that's the other shadow side. It's an imbalance with the identification, or the identification of self. It's an imbalance with individuation. So what does that mean? Either you're not individuated enough, so you're letting other people run the show, and then you feel really disempowered and freaked out. Or the opposite, where your ego is built up in this way where you're hyper reactive and trying to dominate others. The North Node closing in on Chiron says, we are healing this wound of either asserting your ego or under asserting your ego. Where's the sweet spot? The sweet spot has to do with, there's many. Look, work with me one-on-one, because I will help you with your specific Mercury placements, Chiron placements, all of this, all your Aries house as well. But one way to do this, to sort of find the sweet spot, is to pause before you answer a question. Like, really pause and settle into your body. Really, another thing that's just fundamental is having a developed sense of sovereignty, knowing what your ecstatic yes is and what your ecstatic no is, right? Like, that's a no, that's a yes. And pausing is really powerful. I have to say pausing, because pausing when you're activated is, you create a container, you create a moment, a breath, to really ground yourself and to respond from a place of somatic embodiment, from this is where I'm really coming from. Our mind is not our anchor. For most of us, it's our gut. Our gut and our sense of feeling safe. The stomach holds a lot of fear. So if there's fear in your stomach, you can be responding from a place that's not anchor, or your anchor is a little bit uh, freaked out. Your anchor's not working, basically. It's not fully landing on the ocean floor because it's caught up in a fear mechanism. So developing self-help techniques, meditation is definitely one of them. Healing with any kind of healer, but I would say craniosacral healers, therapists, um, not just talk therapists, but somatic therapists, I would say profoundly, as well as EMDR therapy is one of my favorite things ever. EMDR therapy to really work with your fear and transform it. That's also what Pluto's asking us to do this week. But with Mercury, he's asking us to do it with realizations. That's one way that Mercury functions, is like, oh, this is where I'm giving up my power. Maybe I'm giving up my power to the group. Maybe I'm giving up my power in my relationships. This is where I'm giving it up. Or this is where I'm overexerting my power and being forceful. And then the other part of it is literal, physical, tangible conversations that are happening in real time with other people. Aquarius is a very social sign. I do think we need to be very mindful about the words that we use this week and where our thoughts are landing. In fact, on a very psychedelic and shamanic nature, I'm going to just say this because I'm done editing myself. We're going to be real about it. On February 5th, I would say all week, I would say all month, really, all of February, maybe for the rest of our lives, you want to be so mindful about your thoughts because they have so much power here with Aquarius. They have so much power to transform your reality. And if you are addicted to negative thinking, if you are addicted to self-effacing thoughts where you do not think you are enough and you're telling yourself a certain story, Pluto will sort of push you all the way into that darkness until you're like, I'm done. I've had enough. But I'm here telling y'all, because I love y'all so much, I really do love you so much, that I want you to catch it. Like, you can work with it. You don't need to be forced down into hell at that level. You can already, with this Saturn and Pisces work. Saturn and Pisces is, I'm changing my thoughts with mantras. I'm changing my thoughts with prayer. I'm not going down the tunnel where I attack myself. That's also the North Node moving in on Chiron, healing individual identity, healing your relationship to yourself. You will communicate better fundamentally if your relationship to yourself is positive and your thoughts are erring on the side of optimism, positivity. It's not toxic positivity where you're like, nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong. You feel the grief, but you're not creating storylines about it, right? You're not attaching yourself to the thought of it, or rather, processing trauma through thoughts. You cannot actually process trauma through the brain. That's not how trauma gets processed. It gets processed in the body, right? So if your thoughts are really negative, cyclically negative, it's because there's unprocessed trauma in your body. All this Taurus energy, Jupiter and Uranus, are like, we have to get that trauma out. We got to get that trauma out of the body because it's affecting how our brain works. It's literally affecting how you cognitively process. So I know that's a lot. It's kind of intense that I'm sharing all this, but this is the intensity of Pluto conjoining Mercury. In fact, you listening to this podcast, this is the meta experience of astrology. You listening to this podcast is me speaking as Mercury Pluto right now. I'm literally saying you have to mind the deeper inner alchemical processes of who you are with your thoughts and mind and your texting and DMing and your relationship technology, because if you don't, Pluto will pull you into hell until you're so sick and tired of living in a cage that we are putting around ourselves. That's Chiron in Aries, is the wound of the individual who just fundamentally is not growing into an exalted, like, radically loving self. Radically loving self of the self. Like, it starts first with you. I know it's so cliche, but it's like you have to love yourself unapologetically. And part of that is you can literally rewire your brain with prayer, mantras, and positive neurolinguistic programming. You can do that. Like, that's what Pluto's saying. Pluto's like, you have control where you think you don't. We're placing our control on other people. It's like, it's right here. It actually begins right in the body. So this is all happening. I am speaking as your Mercury-Pluto conjunction here. We want to listen to some Whitney Houston. She is the voice, and she knows how to perform this exact aspect. Now on Thursday, Friday, new moon in Aquarius. So the whole week has an intense tone because Pluto's very activated, and then there's a brand new beginning on Thursday/Friday in Aquarius. In the Aquarius part of your chart, so you're having a rebirth there. If you don't know where that is, you can book a reading with me to find out. Or if you need a refresher. The new moon in Aquarius is really dynamic. It's a beautiful new moon, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. There's a lot of positive flowing aspects to Chiron and Aries particularly, as well as the South Node in Libra. So there is some healing around relationships and identity. Everything I just said about the wound of toxic masculinity, we all experience and can express toxic masculinity. So again, overforcing yourself, trying to control others, being violent even in micro ways, so like microaggressions. The new moon is a reboot. It's like, oh, that's not working. Like, it's in positive flow to Chiron, so it says, let's interact with people differently. Let's communicate differently. Also, this could literally be people joining groups or coming into groups of people that help them feel more seen. Like, Lainey said something beautiful in the Pluto and Aquarius conversation we had, where she was like, literally being, it's directly this, being in community with people who love you, and being in community with people who are like, you get to be weird. Like, be yourself. I really experienced this right at the top of the year. I had just a wonderful experience where I was around a bunch of people where I was like, I can be messy here. Like, I can be working things out, and I'm not afraid of just an automatic judgment. And that, my friends, is like the beauty and the exalted version of Pluto and Aquarius, is being in a group where you really get to be in process and be discovering your idiosyncrasies or your weirdness in real time. Other people are witnessing it and being like, wow, okay, like we're gonna hold space for that. Like, let's figure this out together, because we're a group and we're a membrane and we are a collective nervous system. So I love this if you're joining a group or joining a project this week. There's something very healing to the personal identity. You may have to release some relationship dynamics at the same time, but it looks like people are experimenting, because that's Aquarius. Aquarius is like, I'm gonna try something new that might be a little scary, right? That's the Pluto part. But I tried something new, it was scary, and it worked. Like, and this relationship feels different. So there's some breakthroughs there. There is a square to Uranus, and that is a little challenging to me. I do think that the way it'll manifest, so Uranus is in Taurus, the physical body. There's such an emphasis this week, y'all, on tuning into your physical body, right? Pausing. A pause is breathing into the body. I'm not going to react right now. I'm going to pause and root into my earthly realm, my earthly vessel. So the square to Uranus could be that people are having a couple things. People can really have a freaked out nervous system because they're trying something new with a group. If you can really lean in to your physical somatic practices, yoga, meditation, breath work, embodied prayer. So, like I go on walks and I pray. It's physical, like I'm physically moving and I'm praying. Those can be really helpful for this energy. The shadow side of this is that you are, having intense conversations. They unroot you. Maybe it is a group related unroot, like you're like, I'm trying to join this group, or I'm in this group and something happened and it really freaked me out. Then you kind of spiral in an ungrounded way because your nervous system is activated. So we want to dive, especially at the end of the week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we want to dive into the body. That's going to root us. And the thing that I can also see is that people are having downloads, like literally having realizations, like I said earlier, about how they have been giving up their power, how they have been potentially giving more power to other people, or being violent. It can be both. It's like, oh, maybe I was actually too forceful, or I didn't assert myself enough. Those realizations can be really felt in the body this week. So it's like feeling like, look, when I feel incredible amounts of grief, my stomach hurts physically. That's a Uranus and Taurus thing. Like, oh, whoa, like my body. People can have headaches, people can have shakes where you're shaking. If this is happening, if you experience any physical symptoms, especially at the end of the week, what did I just say? Like dive into the body. Go and do something that makes your body feel very good. This also looks like people might be experimenting with technology in their body. So I don't really know. I'm like, well, we'll see what that looks like. Some people may also be trying sexual things that are new because Taurus is a very sensual and sexual sign. Aquarius is experimental. The square is like, a square is action oriented. So like really trying something new and freaky and weird. It's a very experimental week, but you want to be grounded in the experimentation. So, right, that's the red line that you're walking, or the fine line. Rather, the fine line is like, I'm trying new things, I'm pushing out of my comfort zone while I'm really diving into radical self love, okay, which is embodied and somatic. And I'm not going to just let that experimentation destroy the nervous system basically, right? Or send the nervous system into fight or flight. And then you're like, the rest of the week is just, I'm like, what happened? I put my foot in my mouth a bunch of times, or I said something that I wasn't from a grounded place. So we just want to be really mindful. It's experimentation and rooting into the body. That's like the Jedi way. The Jedi way this week is that you're like, I am going to have intense conversations. By the way, this full moon, or this new moon rather, is going to last for 2 weeks. So you're feeling this energy for 2 weeks, but particularly this week. So to the next 2 weeks, like you can have powerful conversations, paradigm shattering conversations, empowering groups, networks, technological conversations. And you want to make sure you're rooting in the body. You want to make sure you're taking time, like kind of like a discipline. Like that's the thing with the Jedi work, is like, I am actually going to make myself, here's the boundary, I'm going to force a boundary on myself in a way that's like really loving, because it's like Taurus is very loving at its core. It's like, in the body, I love my body. And from here, from this love of the body, from this feeling into my body, I actually can affect a lot more change in my life. All right. So rooting into that grounding cord is what I would recommend immensely. Taurus, thank God for Mars and Venus in Capricorn, because Venus is there being like, I got you. Venus in Capricorn is trining Uranus right now, and she's like, I got you. We're going to make some physical changes. It's going to be good. So there can be a lot of relationship breakthroughs and personal breakthroughs because we're actually taking action. But again, it's got to be from a grounded place. So really lean in to the body this week, and the rest of it will take care of itself. Like that's kind of the pro tip. I'm like, if you lean into the body this week, ground yourself, do not feel pressured to respond quickly, slow the conversations down. You can have there's a lot of change available, and it's positive. It looks very empowering, in my opinion. It looks very empowering. Love it. I love it. And yeah, that's really the week. Let's talk about friendships. I really want to talk about friendships here. So I took this from the New York Times. The New York Times did this wonderful, at top of the year, New York Times did this wonderful series that came in my email, all Aquarius, right? Popped into my inbox, that was about like ways in which we're leaking our energy. And they talked about like physical workout regimens, like food, the way that like you can kind of upstart your life by looking at all these places where we tend to subconsciously or unconsciously drain our energy. One of those places where we do sometimes on autopilot drain our energy is in our friendships specifically. And I do recommend, they reference this woman named Nedra Glover Tawwab, and she's a therapist and an author of the book Set Boundaries, Find Peace. So if you need a book to read about rerouting or upstarting like profoundly your relationships, which is what Pluto wants you to do. Pluto wants you to like really get it together in that space of friendships and networks. I would recommend reading this book. It's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace. And in it, she talks about practical, tangible Capricorn ways to reboot the relationship/friendship zone, mostly friendships. So she actually looks at how friendships have a considerable effect on our health. Truly. So this is the Aquarius thing. Lainey said it in the Pluto and Aquarius overview we did, Aquarius is the collective nervous system. What does that mean? All of our nervous systems are tied to each other. That's why when you're in a room with someone who's stressed out, you get stressed out, right? Or if you're feeling really strong and really like centered in your ventral nervous system state, you can calm them down. That's called co-regulation, right? Maybe you don't get stressed out. You sense their stress and you're so rooted that they're like, "Oh, I feel better being around you," right? It's a good therapist right there, or a good like healer. So what she found was that strong friendships, friendships that were rooted in honoring boundaries, friendships that were rooted in uh, explicit communication, all of those, right? Compromise, being able to work together, those had a considerable positive effect on our health. They lowered our blood pressure, protected us against depression, and help us live longer. This is positive friendships. Now, anybody that we feel ambivalent about can raise our blood pressure and cause anxiety. So, all of us, by the way, this is so natural. All of us have people in our lives that we're like, they're kind of like my chaotic friend, right? Or like whoever I'm a friend with. We always have like one or two friends where we're like, that person's kind of like enmeshed in drama. Like there's a lot of drama happening, or a little bit of drama, but it's enough to make you feel like I don't quite know how to deal with this person. That's the ambivalence piece. I don't really know. So take a moment to think, like, is there anyone that pops into your head when I say this, right? Is there someone where you're like, oh, yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know. That's the ambivalence. This actually has a physiological effect. These friendships have a physiological effect on us, raise our blood pressure, cause anxiety. We sometimes in pop culture, we call them energy vampires. So there's sort of a challenge that you could follow. This is so Capricorn. I'm giving you guys a challenge. All the Capricorns, like their ears just perked up. They were like, oh, I got something that I gotta prove. Here we go. So it's a friendship audit. It's perfect to do a friendship audit during Aquarius season. That's why I'm like, Valentine's Day makes no sense to me. But friendship audit is great for Valentine's Day. Or if you're doing a friend's Valentine's Day, this is amazing. You're completely aligned with the energy. Here's the challenge with Mars and Venus in Capricorn. They love this. Make a list of your closest friends. Then use the following prompts from Tawab. These are her quotes, her prompts rather, and then take notes about the energy that your friends supply or do not supply. So the first question is, and you can just answer this in your head too, but it's very powerful to write it down. Pro spiritual tip there. It's really good to write these things down. First prompt is, who do you look forward to spending time with? Who makes you feel uplifted and understood? Who, if anyone, do you consistently put off seeing or dread responding to? Like when their text pops up or when the email pops up or the DM, you're like, I don't know. Who often makes you feel so irritated, keyed up, or fatigued that you have to recover after seeing them? That is such a red flag, my friends. I'm like, nope, I don't do that anymore. Who makes you regularly zone out during conversations because they aren't involving you? They're literally not involving your energy, right? So you're like, it's the ADHD quality of like, I'm checking out because this person's just verbal diarrheaing on me. If the last three questions here presented bring to mind a specific person or a few people, then this person may be one of your energy vampires. Now, what I want to say is that we do not need to judge those people. This is the true Jedi way. This is true Saturn and Pisces that I'm speaking to here, like being your own love bomb, your own Christ consciousness. It's not about judging those people. It is not. It does not have to be, and it's actually not, in my opinion, not helpful. Not helpful to judge them. What it is that it's showing you they are your medicine. They are like the Matrix. They are an apparition in the Matrix showing up and saying, this is where you have not learned how to set boundaries yet. This is where you have not learned how to love yourself yet. Not a judgment on you either, but it's just, oh, wow. I always do the Kabbalistic thing, which is pause. What a pleasure. What a pleasure. That person drives me bananas. What a pleasure, because I get to transform. I get to set boundaries. This is Pluto and Mercury coming together this week, and for the next 2 weeks / next month, transformation because of I can no longer do this thing. I'm aware of it now and I have to transform it. I get to rise to the challenge. And Pluto loves this. Pluto's like, do the shadow work, because the shadow work is unlocking or exposing the block that you have in advocating for yourself that's allowing these relationships to happen. Again, it doesn't have to be about these people, because it's not really about them. Anyone who's been in especially romantic relationships over and over again, certain themes will crop up no matter which partner you're with, because they're your shit. Like it's not them, it's you. And that's not always the case, but when you are the only constant in your relationships, right? So if you're running into this multiple times with people, different people, it isn't about them, and it doesn't need to be about them. You do get to learn through them. They are medicinal. I look at them as angels. Even the people, like, look, I've had some friendships that have really made my nervous system fly off the handles, like just so activated, so freaked out, so upset. And I do not look at any of those people like enemies. I do get upset. I feel my anger. Anger is very healthy. I'm not like shutting down the anger. I'm like, I'm upset. Ooh, this makes me so upset. My inner child is like, no, no, no. And then I always come back to the reframing part, because the reframing part actually frees me. Because if I'm creating a negative, the reframing is like, I'm not going to frame this person as a monster or as an enemy or a villain. They are a human who's on their own path. And I get to learn through them. Thank God, I get to learn through them how to set better boundaries. So then, one thing that there's another part of it. Alexandra Solomon, she's a psychologist at the Family Institute of Northwestern University, and she's the author of Love Every Day. So here's the Leo part. We've got Aquarius, which is like, these are my friends. These are my friendships who are actually energy vampires. I need to change my friendships. Pluto and Aquarius. I need to change them. Alexandra Solomon comes in with the book Love Every Day, and this is Leo, which is the opposite sign, and it balances out the energy. Love every day. Oh, never been more Leo in my life. That's such a Leo. It's the heart chakra. Leo rules the heart chakra. So love every day. So what Solomon says is, she says, be honest about what you're getting out of the friendship. Like, what first drew you to this person? What keeps me coming back to this person? These are hard questions, by the way, because they reveal, Pluto, they reveal parts of you to yourself that you're like, oof, okay, maybe I actually love drama. Or like, maybe I secretly am still addicted to gossip, and so this person gossips with me and I love it. And that can be hard to acknowledge, right? There can be hidden benefits to your friendship, like accessing that person or accessing opportunities through that person. So it could be like strategic, but is that in alignment? And that's another Pluto thing. Pluto is like, you are trying to take advantage, and it's actually putting you out of your proper path. It's putting you out of alignment because your ego is saying, oh, I need to be friends with this person for a career thing or for whatever. Pluto and Aquarius is like, no, you got to set them free. You got to set yourself free. This is not it. Again, this is a 20-year long transit, my friends. It's okay. It's okay if this takes a minute. Okay, so here's some quotes. Gosh, we love Oprah. We love Oprah Winfrey. So this New York Times article interviewed Oprah Winfrey and her best friend, Gayle King. And are they best friends or are they lovers? We don't know, but we love to speculate. Okay, so Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King have been lifelong friends. It's a powerful friendship, we'll just put it that way. And they asked Oprah about her friendship with Gayle. They said, like, what's your advice for friendship in general? They asked Oprah, and she said, you are with the wrong friend if you are around anybody that makes you feel less than 100% yourself. If you're around anybody that makes you feel like you can't shine or say whatever you want to say, right? So there isn't enough of a container for you to make mistakes. There isn't enough of a container for your friend to be like, oh, you said that, like, let's talk about that because that was weird for me. Or like, all of the nuance of it. There's a whole article that we can link to here that has to do with that exact interview. I recommend reading that interview. Oh my gosh. If you're having any issues with your friends, this interview with Oprah and Gayle King is awesome. So we'll link that in the show notes. Okay, so then here's some tangible Capricorn ways to shift the energy or to make draining friendships healthier, because you don't have to necessarily destroy the relationship. Sometimes it's like that person does not want to change, you got to move on. But there are ways to work with this energy that can retrain everyone involved. It's not just you retraining somebody, it's like everybody's learning. One is shift to an activity. So let's say that you always get coffee with somebody and they just like gossip, 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 talk your face off. You're like, I don't feel good about this. Then maybe suggest going to an art museum or going to a movie together, going somewhere where there's just like a different dynamic happening. Maybe you're going to go learn a sport together. You're going to go learn how to box or do martial arts, right? So there's an activity. That's a wonderful way to shift the dynamic that normally happens. It can also literally just create fresh air in the relationship because you're learning something together or having fun. Like, I'm thinking like mini golf. Like you go mini golfing with somebody. It's random, it's weird, but like maybe there's something cool that comes out of it. Maybe they get loosened up in a way or they're more open to listening to you. And look for the positives. So if you have like a shared history, this can be really hard. So they talk about like shared history is like someone you've known since you were in high school or someone you've known since you were a kid. There can be a lot of weight in those friendships. Like we have to be friends because we've known each other for this long. It's important to look for the positives. Like how has that person helped you grow? How have you helped that person grow? What are you grateful for them in terms of like life cycles? Maybe they were really protective of you in high school and that felt very healing at that time when you needed it. So it's like, that's okay, Um, and that helps reframe of not feeling like a total victim. But then the most important thing you can do is set boundaries. Like that's what we're talking about here, is setting boundaries. Pluto is going to majorly demand that we set boundaries with our friendships. So if the vampire is like a coworker or somebody that you see every day, do your best to strategize. This is very Capricorn, strategize around limiting contact. So maybe you can just tell them like, hey, I really, at work, I can only talk for 10 minutes, like about non-work stuff. Like set a limit, just be like, and they could be like, what? And it's just like, it's draining. I've got a lot going on. I don't really want to do that. So we can talk, but like 10 minutes. Now, when it comes to technology, you can just do not disturb it, set limits with yourself in terms of feeling like you have to respond to people immediately. Also letting folks know, hey, I'm not going to respond to text immediately. I've got a lot going on. I do that with some folks where I'm like, do not expect a response from me within 24 hours. It may not happen. I like have a busy life. Also, when folks don't text you back, also tempering your expectations around that. So it goes both ways. Really just trying to understand that everyone's got their own life going on. People who demand that you respond to them immediately, that is a red flag, my friends. It is a red flag. The other thing you can do is you can prioritize friends who energize you. So literally just like filling your schedule up with people who make you feel good, people who make you feel like you can be yourself. That is a wonderful way to, basically you're like training your brain to prioritize a healthy habit, like a healthy friendship. So you're rewiring your brain. And I love what Oprah Winfrey says. She's like, you need friends that are not just willing to ride in the limo with you, but also willing to take the bus with you when the limo breaks down. So it's folks who are like down, down. They're just like in hard times, in good times, they're just like, hey, let's connect. This is it. And friends who ask questions, I think is a really great barometer. Like, are they asking you questions? Are they also trying to understand you better? So just looking up healthy communication, that's one way to know. It's a gauge. It's a really wonderful gauge to know whether your friendships are feeding you. So that is it in a nutshell, my friends. That is our energy challenge day 4. These folks coming into your life, are they good? Are they bad? We're figuring it out. I believe in all of you. Pluto in Aquarius is demanding this energy, so great to hop on it right now. You do not need to rush this process. The South Node in Libra is about releasing draining relationships or releasing draining dynamics in relationships, and it's there for another year. So do not feel pressured, well, till January of 2025. So do not feel pressured to figure it out this week, but I want you to start thinking about it. You can start writing about which friendships fill you up, which ones don't. Underneath all of these dynamics have to do, like, the fundament of this is the shadow work that you have to do on yourself, right? People do not force themselves into your life. You consent, right? You create spaces and situations where those friendships can thrive. And if they are unhealthy relationships, then there's a part of your own inner being that needs to look and be really critical, but loving and critical of like, what am I doing here? Where is this pain coming from? Or does this person remind me of one of my parents? Does this person show, they show some sort of behavior that like I have been used to since I was a child, or in another relationship. Really being critical will be helpful here. So that's the way to go this week. It's totally coming in. If you have any hard conversations, it's the nature of the game this week, but also very empowering conversations are also available at the same time. With Pluto, it can be like supercharged empowerment and transformation, or getting thrust down into the hole, the hole of hell, the holy hell, to understand where you need to become a fierce warrior and dig your way out. So it can really be both. So that's what's happening this week. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for listening to The World of Rex. If you need to go deeper into your own process around friendships, we can do that in a reading. It's very, very easy to go into a reading and look at your love language with your friends. There's a whole part of your chart that rules friendship, and there's Mercury, which rules communication. We can work together to help you do some healing around your friendships, your friendship style, what you need from friends. If you have any potential wounds around friendship, we can do that in a reading. So just know that the link is in the show notes, and that's how you can connect with me. Yeah, I'm here to help. Always, always, always. All right. Check out the newsletter. Check out the Instagrams. We've got a TikTok going. It's all linked below. World of Rex is just blowing up. We have a team here. We're making it happen. There is a wonderful team behind the World of Rex. So shout out to them. And I'll talk to you next week on, yes, you got it, the World of Rex.